Get more on this with Jonny Dyer, who used to work at SpaceX and was involved in developing their first rocket engine. He's currently the CEO of Muon Space. Jonny, good to get your thoughts on this. How big a deal or how significant a moment is this?
I mean, I think it's really significant from a few different perspectives. I mean, one is that, I think it's really highlighting that space has become kind of a mainstream component of the economy and of technology infrastructure more and more. And I think that's only going to continue in the future. So it's sort of a pivotal point from that perspective. And I think the fact that there's as much interest and excitement around this IPO as there is just goes to, sort of the enthusiasm for a company like SpaceX becoming a public company. So I think it's a big deal.
Yeah, and the dollar sign attached to it so far, I mean, it's quite staggering. It could be the largest IPO in history.
Yeah, and I mean, there's been a lot written about whether that's justified or not, and I'm not going to, I don't think I'm very qualified to really weigh in strongly one way or the other today. But I do think, from a potential perspective, space is just has this. There's enormous blue sky, no pun intended, potential in what can be built and deployed in space, and I think that's a lot of what's driving this. Is if we do end up with large scale data center infrastructure in space. The new NASA administrator announced a whole bunch of programs to return the country to the moon this week. So there's a whole bunch of momentum behind doing big things in space in a way that we probably haven't seen really ever, but certainly in 60 years or so. And so I think that, it may be sort of hard to justify today, but if you think with the long view, SpaceX is a unique and extremely valuable organization.
Well, to casual watchers then of what's been going on, what do we need to understand of not just sort of the scale, but the breadth of what this could imply going forward?
I mean, I think one thing that sort of is maybe not being discussed as much as it could be is that there's this kind of convergence happening right now between a lot of what we consider as kind of traditional terrestrial infrastructure, things like data centers and networks, and the stuff that we are now launching into space. Again, SpaceX is right in the middle of a lot of this. Starlink is a global broadband network where it's not dependent on regional, infrastructure on the ground or other things, and it's delivering this, kind of consumer product, this consumer network that is now available everywhere in the world. There's a whole spectrum of things like that, more and more that we're going to see where, whether it's data centers or sensing or other things, these things that we consider historically as kind of niche or bespoke and isolated from the rest of the economy or the rest of the technology ecosystem are now kind of very deeply integrated in with what we think of as terrestrial infrastructure. And more, that sort of boundary is just going to evaporate. And again, I think that's a big kind of underlying motivation for a lot of investors, and as to why this is such a big deal, because it's now kind of deeply coupling the whole space ecosystem, the space economy, with the big tech economy on Earth.
Yeah, Jonny, thanks very much for giving us a clearer picture of all that it could entail. Jonny Dyer there, who used to work at SpaceX and was involved in developing their first rocket engine. He's currently the CEO at Muon Space. That's it for this edition of Business Today. See you again at the top of the hour.